Beauty trends are constantly changing with time and across cultures. Don't believe me? Just compare the thin, overplucked, barely there eyebrows of the 2000s to the full, bushy caterpillar brows of American models today. Body positivity is on the rise, partially thanks to models such as Ashley Graham, the first plus-size model to grace the cover of Sports Illustrated in 2016. Racial diversity is becoming more and more commonplace both on the runway and on TV. This really is a generation where so many different types of physical beauty are finally being recognized. Yet why do so many girls and women still feel so much pressure to fit a certain mold beyond simply maintaining good health and hygiene standards? Because there have been so many different beauty trends across eras and in different regions, isn't it likely that at some time and in some place, every physical characteristic that one might have has been considered idealistic? And if this is the case, then shouldn't every physical characteristic still be objectively beautiful despite shifts in beauty trends? I believe that at some point in time and in some part of the world, every single person has been or would be considered the pinnacle of beauty. To explore this topic, I interviewed random people on my college campus and conducted an online survey. To answer my specific questions, I didn't really want to know whether or not people thought they were beautiful on the inside. That's an entirely different question. Because of my religious beliefs, I believe that each person was divinely created by God. It just doesn't really make sense to me that God would create someone ugly on the outside and beautiful on the inside. So I think that when he made each person, he truly made them to be a masterpiece and a work of art. When people think they're ugly, that is because our ideas of beauty have been shaped by an imperfect society. So I started out by asking girls the question, according to society's standards, do you think that you're pretty?
Honestly, I'd probably say yes. I would consider myself ugly.
Yes.
No. I personally don't have that much confidence in myself. The media often portrays someone that has like a bigger chest area or a bigger bottom or something like that, but I don't really have either of those.
I'd say yes. I have nice teeth, so it helps.
Yes, baby. People say they like long hair. I guess everyone is pretty in their own way, but like I just don't necessarily consider myself to be.
Not really, no. I think I probably don't put enough time into what I wear or what I do with my face. I have a lot of acne.
Not by society standards. Society has a very strict definition of pretty. White and tall and skinny and long legs and a short little torso and perfect long hair, and that's all me.
If we're gonna be completely honest, probably not.
I guess I would say yes.
Yes, I do think I'm pretty, and I think that mostly stems from being fortunate enough to grow up with a mom who kind of always told me that I was pretty. Of course, to some extent, you're gonna be like, okay, well, yeah, you're my mom, like obviously you're gonna tell me that. But also I think that the things you hear a lot as a child definitely have an influence on how you view yourself as an adult.
Sometimes I feel like a little self-conscious about some like natural blemishes, either because like my mom told me that I like have too much acne.
More than once my mom has said something along the lines of, wouldn't it be nicer if you lost a couple pounds kind of thing.
My family's supportive, so I've always felt like I was like pretty enough.
Next, I asked the people who did think they were pretty whether or not it felt awkward to admit that they thought they were pretty.
A little bit, yeah.
Really awkward.
I guess so, yeah. I wouldn't want to come off vain. Like when you say like, I feel pretty today, people take that, oh, you're being narcissistic. Yeah, I usually don't really like to like boast about it if I think I'm pretty.
Yeah.
Yes.
People think that you shouldn't brag or be proud of yourself. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Extremely.
People don't want to sound conceited or they don't want to be told otherwise. If you say that and then someone else decides that they don't think so, it feels awkward.
Most of the time it seems to me that the world would rather have us err on the side of being a little insecure but humble than have us be confident and cocky. Next, I asked the people who did think they were pretty whether or not they felt like they needed makeup to look pretty.
No.
Depends on who I'm around.
Yeah. I think I look prettier with makeup, but if I'm not tired and I'm
are fresh-faced and not wearing makeup, and it's okay.
It depends on the certain event, but most of the time, no.
Well, I don't wear makeup that much, so no.
Most of the people I actually interviewed in person said no, that they didn't, but according to the online survey, 51.52% of people who answered said they did feel like they needed makeup, while 48.48% felt like they didn't. For me, I feel like if I'm not wearing makeup, I feel gross and I don't feel presentable. If I'm not wearing makeup, I actually kind of find myself apologizing to people, like, sorry I'm so ugly, sorry you have to look at my face. Next, I asked the girls who didn't think they were pretty what they think they would have to do to feel pretty.
Probably, like, you know, get a better, like, sense of style.
Because I can't find a way to, like, look like those girls, I just find a way to, like, dress like them and spend a lot of money on clothes.
Well, I think to be pretty, I would have to spend a lot more time in the mornings probably getting ready, and I'd have to wear more makeup, and I'd have to wear different outfits.
There was definitely a common theme about needing to spend more time and put more effort into how they look and spend more money. To kind of test this theory about needing a lot of time and money to make yourself fit society standards, I asked people whether or not they buy products that will help them fit other people's ideas of beauty.
Yes.
Yeah, I wear my makeup and my hair.
I guess, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do. Like when I see girls wearing like highlight, I'm like, oh, I need to go get highlight.
I buy like products and makeup not because I want to be a certain standard, just because I believe makeup is art.
No, I actually don't wear any makeup.
I do, yeah. And I don't know how much that comes from pressure from the outside world as much as I like how I look sometimes when I wear makeup.
Obviously, this isn't really fair. Why should women have to spend more time and more money trying to fit society's standards? Why can't we just ignore the beauty standards that are put in place by society? And some women do. Some women do weigh the costs and benefits of fitting society's definition of beauty and say, hey, it's not worth it. But why is it so hard for most women to do that? Shaving my legs is a huge hassle. It's a lot of time and a lot of money, yet I still do it because I don't want to be that chick with the unshaven legs. Like other people, I definitely think, well, hey, maybe I just shave my legs for myself. You know, I like when my legs are feeling smooth. But that causes me to ask, was I just born with this innate love of smooth legs? Or do I love smooth legs because that's what society has trained me to believe is attractive and sexy, and I like feeling attractive and sexy, so therefore I like having smooth legs. But why do I even care if I feel attractive and sexy? Like, why does that even matter to me? The most obvious scientific answer would be that I want to attract a man. Most humans are programmed to want to reproduce. But I think there's a little more to it than that. That hasn't even worked out for me. And yet I still feel this sense of accomplishment almost when I have like a really good hair day or when my makeup is on point. So what do we have to gain from fitting someone else's ideas of beauty? Is there any actual practical advantage to being considered beautiful by others? I decided to ask people, has there been a time that you wish you could change something about your appearance or feel like looking different would have been an advantage to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, sure.
I wish I didn't have as broad shoulders.
People ask me if I'm a swimmer or a gymnast a lot.
I got a nose job. First, I didn't have like any problem with it, but people started pointing it out, which made me really insecure about myself. But I did it also like for myself.
My eyes. I wish they weren't like Asian eyes. Everyone wants to like change something about themselves.
I wish I was taller. I definitely do, because then if I was taller, I feel like my frame would be slimmer, and I feel like that's more of like the ideal image that society is like great at me.
I think like I'm really small, and if I were to be taller, then I think it'd be an advantage for me.
Yeah, a little bit in high school, I was a size like 00 in jeans. I still felt like I needed to be skinnier.
I remember in high school having acne. Like I thought about that for sure. I thought if I just didn't have this, then I think that would be advantageous.
Here are some of the comments from the survey that I found interesting. Out Of all the comments, 38% of people mentioned something about feeling overweight or feeling too fat or too thick. That was definitely the most common answer that people said about something they wish they could change about themselves. In the Renaissance era, having a little extra stomach fat or even a lot of extra stomach fat was considered very beautiful. It represented fertility and health. And even in the 50s, Marilyn Monroe was the epitome of female beauty, and she was fairly thick. She was not a teeny tiny girl. She definitely had some curves, and that was the standard of American beauty at that time. The point is, beauty is so subjective. If you feel like you don't fit modern society's beauty standards, that doesn't mean that you aren't beautiful, because you could have been the quintessence of beauty in a different era. Almost every girl I interviewed who identified with some ethnicity other than white mentioned some form of struggle resulting from having non-white features.
I think very few people are attracted to Asians, like a limited amount.
Grew up in Montana. It's not very diverse there. So it definitely looked different than everyone else. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, maybe like this would help if I looked this way, or if my hair was straight.
My eyelashes, they stick straight down because I'm part like Asian, so they stick straight down, and I wish that they curled up, so I wear mascara and curl them. Sometimes like certain colors like don't look as good on me as they would with like someone with a lighter complexion. So definitely sometimes I feel like I don't fit in that sense. Honestly, being here at BYU is a really big thing. I mean, I love it here, but I feel like the way I look isn't necessarily the standard of beauty here in Utah. One of my earliest memories is in preschool, and I was like a little baby and I had a crush on this boy, and he was like, no one will ever love you because you're too dark.
I think mostly just growing up being of a different race and a different culture, I've kind of always just stood out growing up in Utah where everyone is predominantly white.
Anyone who knows me knows I am a very proud Mexican-American woman. But I think growing up there definitely were times that I just wished I could have been born with blonde hair and blue eyes. Growing up in Southern California, personally I lived in a very white area. I think because you see so many beautiful white people so often, it's easy to forget that you don't have to be white to be beautiful. I think the first time I really felt represented was when Selena Gomez was on Wizards of Waverly Place. She is Mexican-American just like me. That was just so huge because I could look at someone on TV and be like, wow, she is a movie star, and in some ways she kind of looks like me. Representation is so important because I think it helps everyone to subconsciously become a little more accepting and cognizant of non-white beauty.
Everybody in the US that's considered pretty and like on television and like on screen is not my ethnicity or not what I look like.
Do you think it would help you feel more beautiful if you saw more people of your ethnicity on TV and in magazines and stuff like that?
Definitely.
So the first time I felt represented was definitely when I watched Brandy be Cinderella, and Whitney Houston was her fairy godmother. I was like, oh, she's a princess and she's brown. And I was like so excited to see kind of myself on screen. I feel like a lot more representation is happening now. Celebrities like Zendaya or like mixed girls like her make me feel like represented and make me feel pretty.
Next, I wondered if people's insecurities stemmed from mainly judging themselves too harshly, or if they were a reflection of things other people have said to them. So I decided to ask the question, has anyone ever made negative comments about your appearance that made you feel self-conscious?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's been like guys that have like said like, oh, you should definitely dress more feminine because people will get the assumption that you're gay.
A couple people have mocked my hair color, and that was just like a little moment of insecurity.
Things about my hair, like say, can you even brush it?
People talk about my height like probably every single day. It's like the opening sentence, the closing sentence, it's the joke. And sometimes I get tired of like doing the joke. But I mean, I think it's funny sometimes too.
I remember my friend telling me that her friend said that I was cute. He said, but her nose. And that just...
One thing that like someone is called is like, oh, like taco girl or whatever. Like
Shrimp, midget, shorty.
Most of the negative comments I've ever gotten have something to do with the fact that I have the body type similar to that of a 10-year-old boy. I'm pretty sure I'm 5'1" and I'm pretty flat, from all angles in all areas. I definitely think that at some points I wish that I fit the American standard of beauty, but the thing to consider is that in Asian countries, in China and Japan, being small and cute is the ideal standard of beauty, as opposed to America, where being slim and thick and having that hourglass figure is the ideal standard of beauty. So finally, I ask people the question, is there an excessive amount of pressure on women to look a certain way?
Yes, a lot.
Definitely. Yes, I definitely think social media has made people think that there is one certain standard of beauty they should all be held to, and that's not true.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, I do. I don't think it should be that way. I think everyone should be able to be comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, we can't not dress up.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
The purpose of this research in this video was to question the American standards of beauty and why we immediately accept them. I want to call attention to the need for racial representation in the media. I want every person who doesn't think that they're physically attractive to consider the root of that conviction and question whether or not that's really valid. I want to kind of remind women that it is not your obligation or responsibility to look a certain way, and that you don't need to ever apologize for being too heavy or too dark or not feminine enough. I want girls to recognize that beauty trends are constantly changing, and just because society tends to glorify one type of beauty at a time, that doesn't diminish the objective beauty of all the other types of beauty. I think every person deserves to be able to look at themselves in the mirror and think that they are beautiful physically and that they are a true work of art, and not just on the inside but on the outside as well.